Calling to order Maplewood Park and Rec Commission, July 21st, 2021, at 6 p.m. We'll start with roll call. Greg?
Vicki Lee-Hurt.
Dorothy Molstead, Chair.
Terry Millette.
Karen Papa.
And Nikki, do you want? As liaison, do you want to chime in?
Nikki Villavicencio, City Council Liaison.
All right, thank you. First item is the approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. They have an agenda. You have a copy of the minutes from our virtual meeting on May 19th. Can I have approval of those minutes, please?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Terry. Second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions about them at all? If no discussion, we'll move for approval of the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. We have some new business tonight. And I think I'll turn that over to Audra and take it away.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. First of all, I want to say it's so good to have everybody here in person. This is our first in-person meeting in over a year, so I'm very happy to see everybody and to welcome, for those of you who haven't seen, our newest commissioner, Vicki Lee-Hurt, is one of our newest members of the Commission, and Christina Koopman also, who's not here tonight. But so we have a full commission, and we're back on track to do great things. So I'm glad everybody's here. So I just wanted to say that. And the first item on the agenda for tonight is to talk about some big changes for our department, the Parks and Recreation Department. And I don't know if any of you are aware yet, there was an announcement in the Living, and there actually was an article in the Pioneer Press about, or is it the Star Tribune, sorry, but about these changes. But this will also double as our update for the task force. The decision has been made to form a new department, and it would be, the Parks and Recreation Department will now be the Parks and Natural Resources Department. And it will be made up of Carol Gurnis, who's going to be presenting the next two items, our Natural Resources Coordinator, Neil Brenneman, who is our Parks and Recreation Supervisor, myself, the Park Maintenance Crew, which is a group of 6 park maintenance employees, and Sean Finwell, who some of you may know is our environmental planner, and she is currently in the Community Development Department, but she will be joining the department with all of her vast experience with environmental issues and planning, and they thought that's going to be a really good fit to put all of it together. So I wanted to say at this time, because I think there might be questions about the commission with the name change, and I don't see the name of this commission changing because Parks and Recreation is still a part of what the Parks Department does, but the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission will, Sean will be in our department, so that will be, and so we'll have those commissions together under one department. So I think that'll create some good synergies for what we do. And the other big change is we are going to be moving to the Nature Center to office. So 4 of us will be officing out of the Nature Center, and that will serve 2 purposes. One, to put us together. Park maintenance will still stay here, but it would be Carol Gurnis, Sean, Neil, and myself going to the Nature Center. And then also that will enable us to open the building to be offering some programs there, and also keep the building open during hours for snowshoe rentals or letting people use the restrooms, or giving out educational materials and that kind of thing, so the building won't be sitting closed. So that would be the first step in getting the building open. So I just wanted to let you know that, and if you have questions, this would be a great time. I don't know all the details yet. We're looking at September for this transition to fully happen. So any questions, feel free. Terry.
What does it mean that we're taking recreation out of there? Are we still going to have sports and stuff available for the kids, and other activities, or is that going away?
Sure. Well, as part of what happened with the decisions that were made previously with not having a recreation budget, and that was why those task forces were formed to find other ways to offer recreation, and that was what we were tasked with, to try to come up with different ways where even if we don't offer them in-house per se, just finding and getting those opportunities for Maplewood residents. So working with the YMCA, and that was part of what we've been doing, is working with the YMCA to help them in any way we can, and they could offer some things that we had been doing, working with area groups. It could be groups like Skyhawks, which is a professional organization that you can hire to run programs. So it wouldn't necessarily be our recreation staff any longer, but still the goal is to make sure there's recreation opportunities for Maplewood residents. We don't have it currently, but that's something we've been talking with. First, we were talking with the YMCA and staff there about potentially bringing dance back to the community center. I don't know exactly when that might happen, but all those things are still in the talk as part of, as we try to implement those task force outcomes that we've talked about at previous meetings. So, but this is, go ahead.
I'm wondering if there's some way we can have, I know we're always going to have the Y talk to us, but I'm
Yes.
curious to see what's going on with them. Even like swimming, you can't just go there to swim anymore. So I'm wondering, are we going to get stuff back? It seems like there's less and less for the kids to do, and I'm worried. This makes me nervous. Is there going to be less and less even more now? Or can we work with the Y
Sure.
and have them talk to us about that?
And chair, members of the commission, absolutely the Y will be asked. They're still doing some transitions of their own with some staff and getting things set up after COVID and opening back up now that things are, transitioning back that way. But yes, they will be coming, and that was one of our goals actually that the commission set,
yeah.
to have them come and talk. So absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a question about the use of the nature center.
Sure.
And the possibility of volunteers coming back and getting involved and assisting with some of the programs you might be offering.
Absolutely, and I'm actually going to turn that question over to Carol Gurnis, because in addition to all the other things that she does, she's also been keeping in touch with all the volunteers and coordinating volunteer opportunities already this whole time. So Carol, if I can turn that over to you.
Sure. We do have some volunteers who have remained active during COVID-19, including open space monitors, bluebird monitors, frog monitors. We've had a few site kind of events for getting rid of things like knapweed. We've had a few Century College students help out with some litter pickup in front of the Priory Preserve. But it's not at the point where it used to be. But we're hoping that once COVID's been over for a while and we get a few programs going, that'll improve.
And that's been one thing that's been important, is to keep in touch with the volunteers that we did have, even when the Nature Center closed and changes, just so we keep in touch with them so that when opportunities did present themselves again, that we would be able to reach out to people. And did you mention volunteers at the community gardens as well? I don't know if you did.
Yeah, we had a event at the community gardens to take care of a weed problem on the north side. So we did have 2 people show up, but it was 85-degree day and very hot, middle of the day. We're going to have another event tomorrow night, if anybody's interested. We're going to have master gardeners come, and any Maplewood Nature Center volunteers are welcome to come as well. And of course, it's going to be hot again, but we're going to be taking weeds out on the north side with the eventual goal of getting some thick, clear plastic on top of that area to solarize those weeds and kill the seeds that are underneath there. It's been kind of a bad spot since the beginning.
Thank you, Carol.
So we're not going to have any in-house baseball, soccer, any of those programs, or they're just gone?
As far as in-house that recreation staff would be offering, no. At this time, we don't have a recreation budget for this year or for next year. But in-house would mean with the YMCA, and when talking to them, making sure that when these activities are offered, that they have a team that's local to Maplewood, because they do kind of program through all the different Ys to get enough participants and run leagues, but they're working really hard to make sure to get registrations, in-house so that Maplewood kids would be on a team together. And also working with NEU, they took over some of the recreational soccer like clinics and instruction. They kind of stayed out of the way before, so we didn't step on each other's toes. But now that we're not offering an in-house rec soccer program, they've kind of stepped up to the plate to do that, and we promote their programs on Facebook or wherever we can, and we'll even put something in the living if need be, so that we can help promote those programs, because the goal is to get Maplewood kids in programming and have opportunities for them. So we're still working on implementing those outcomes from the task force. It's a work in progress for sure. I don't know if that answers your question.
Do people have to be members of the Y in order to do all these? I mean, are these families some families going to be secluded because they don't belong to the Y or they don't know about these things? I'm afraid we're going to lose a lot of kids and have kids not having stuff to do out there.
Sure, and for the programs, they don't have to be a Y member to join the recreational programming. And it wouldn't just be the Y. We wanted to work with them first because they're our close partners with the community center, and they do sports, they call them their core sports throughout the metro, and so we're working with them first for that. But then we're exploring other opportunities where, we can have other organizations or associations step up and kind of fill the gap, or like I said, like a Skyhawks or another group where they could come in with their own instructors and offer the program, but we would give them the field space or the court space, or, just trying to figure out how that would all work. But
So we're still renting out spaces for soccer and all that, so that we're
Field
taking
permits?
money, we're bringing money in, but we just aren't offering anything.
we do the field permits for, like I said, for NEU and other groups that use like Hazelwood and Harvest and Playcrest, Drain. Yes, we do field permits and all of that. Actually, really busy with field permits and ball field permits and shelter rentals, and of course the Wakefield building. All of that is. I'm really appreciating Neil, our recreation supervisor, because he's taken on all of those duties, and he's on vacation in Florida till tomorrow. So I've been taking all the shelter and the Wakefield building rentals and the field permits, and I have a new appreciation for what he does. So yes, we're very busy with that. So it's nice to see the fields and the facilities being used.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Audra, and I hope you enjoy the Nature Center. It'd be a fun place to have an office, I think.
A beautiful place to take your lunch walk, right?
There you go.
Yep, and I'll keep you posted as things evolve. Like I said, this was just kind of a new development. I wanted to make sure that you knew about it, and then as things progress, I will make sure to keep you posted. So,
Okay.
all right.
Natural Resources update?
Yep, and Carol Gurnis, our Natural Resources Coordinator, is here tonight. Just to meet everyone, get acclimated. Carol joined us late last year, and with COVID and the remote meetings and all of that, you haven't had a chance to really meet Carol and get an update on all the great things happening in natural resources, so she's going to tell you a little bit about all the things she's working on and what's happening. And then after that, we'll be talking about Emerald Ash Borer, and she'll touch on it a little bit in the first presentation, and then we'll have a discussion about potentially, some of you will know that we had designated a tree that we might want to look at saving an ash tree, and so Carol will touch on that, and we'll kind of circle back to that topic. So with that, Carol, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Audra. Is this working?
I think so. Oh, he's coming. You have to push the... He's got you. You got to push the button. There we go. All right.
Fantastic, thank you.
Technology.
All right. So, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. Some of you might be familiar with me, might have met me at Maplewood Nature Center when I was part-time naturalist there. So I've been as Audra said, I've been the Natural Resources Coordinator since right before Thanksgiving of this year. Besides working at Maplewood Nature Center in the past, I also ran the Ramsey County Cooperative Weed Management Area, which should be called Ramsey County Invasive Plants. I have a master's degree. I've taught at the college level. I love teaching all ages, but adults especially. I just finished my tree inspector certification. I've lived in Maplewood for 30 years, so I care about what happens here, and I enjoy a lot of outdoor and traditional hobbies. All right, so first we're going to talk about trees. A lot of what I deal with are tree issues. So far, since I started, we've been certified for Tree City USA once again. We had a spring tree sale, which is a partnership with Tree Trust, and this year 150 trees were sold out in 2 days. That was a big surprise, I think, to everyone. And we did finish quite a few oak wilt removal compliance checks. Last October, there were 38 boulevard ash replacement trees planted. The company that did it were really gung-ho and actually had to plant some trees in the snow. We had a really early snow in October. I just finished inspecting about half of those planted trees and am planning on finishing the other half of the inspections next week. The stump grinding was scheduled to start this week sometime. There's a little lag because of the Go for One marking isn't completed. And the next thing we'll do after the stumps are ground is we're going to send out tree replacement letters to the 170 people who had their ash trees removed this year. Okay, this is really exciting. So starting this year, in June, the Department of Agriculture started emerald ash borer biocontrol releases in Joy Preserve. That's really exciting. They've shown that these insects, which are very tiny stingless wasps, they're harmless to people and pets. They've shown that they're able to reproduce, and they are hoping that they are going to keep the emerald ash borer population in check a little bit more. So 2 of these insects will lay their eggs right on the larva of the EAB. And then when those eggs hatch, those hatchlings devour the larva of the emerald ash borer. And another one lays its eggs on the bark of the tree, but near the emerald ash borer eggs. And when those hatch, they eat the eggs of the emerald ash borer. So that's pretty exciting stuff. The first release in June, they're going to continue to release throughout this summer until they've released, I don't remember if it's 4,000 or 5,000 insects. So pretty exciting stuff. Okay, and here's our ash at Wakefield Park. It's the only ash tree between the new building and the picnic shelter. It's a beautiful specimen tree. It's large. There are kids that go up and hug it. It's really symmetrical, a really nice example of an ash tree. So our contracted forester did go out and check that tree, said that it's not infected and it's a very good candidate for treatment. Okay, a little bit about CIP. The Maplewood Nature Center CIP was started very early in the winter, and it was just completed. The boardwalk's been repaired. There have been bridges that have been replaced. There's an overlook that was sinking that's been replaced. And then the stairs to the neighborhood that were in bad shape, those have just been completed for entering the preserve from the neighborhood. The Priory Neighborhood Preserve, we're wanting to replace 2 boardwalks there that are missing boards, they're sitting crooked, they're sinking in spots. There's one bridge that's not in good shape. Also, the Idaho entrance is really quite a challenge to get in there. It's eroding, it's a steep slope, so we added that onto the request for quotes. And then there's also a small spot, I know that map is small, but up in the northwest you'll see a little red dot that has a number 4. So to get to that section you have to go through a really muddy spot. And it's even muddy, with our dry year. So in order to make that loop accessible, we're asking them to also if they choose to add on a quote for putting some kind of walkway through there over the wet spot. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about our grants and partnerships. We have quite a few. One that's well underway, we've been working with Mississippi Park Connection for several years. They send Conservation Corps crews to do work for us at Fish Creek because it falls within the National Fish and Wildlife Service Mississippi River Recreation Area. One of the tasks they did way back in April was to look for invasive plants and map them. We haven't had a complete inventory for quite a while. So they were looking for wild parsnip, garlic mustard, Japanese hedge parsley, and they found a few other things as well. And then as they found them, they removed them. In June, they just finished some oak study maintenance. You might be familiar with the oak trees that were planted to study assisted migration and check to see which oaks survive well in this area. Next month, they'll be removing woody plants like buckthorn and invasive honeysuckle. And then in September, we'll have the Conservation Corps, their Youth Outdoors program, and then an extra volunteer group planting 150 native flowering shrubs. And they're all shrubs that are well known to be helpful for pollinators. So that's going to be a very exciting day, and that's another opportunity for some of our own volunteers. And then we have quite a few grants. We have a brand new Minnesota DNR EAB bonding grant that has not been approved yet by the council. We do need to show that we have our cash match dedicated before we get a contract. The difference between this one and the 2019 is that this one has a component for equity, where if a person's boulevard trees are cut down and they don't want a replacement, we can offer those replacement trees to some underserved neighborhoods that are in need of trees. The Minnesota DNR 2019 Emerald Ash Borer grant, that is the one that enabled us to plant the 38 replacement trees last fall. And we will be planting again this fall. And the final report is due next June, and then it will be done, but we'll probably do our report in December. The Great River Greening LCCMR 2020 grant, that is one of the grants that was held up in the legislature when things didn't pass last year. So that has just recently been passed. And that will provide us with pollinator habitat here at City Hall campus. We also have another one that was held up in the legislature that is being administered by Friends of the Mississippi River. And that one includes, it covers more than just Maplewood preserves, but doing some natural resources restoration at both our Applewood and Carver preserves. We just applied for help from Great River Greening to help with restoration and writing a more thorough management plan for Jim's Prairie. Jim's Prairie used to be our jewel of the city, and you can see the pictures of the blooming blazing stars in a lot of our brochures and things. It has really degraded over the years, and we'd like to bring it back to its former glory. And then an ongoing partnership with Ramsey County Cooperative Weed Management Area. They obtain grants through both the Department of Agriculture and Bowser that enables them to treat different invasive plants throughout the city. And we are continuing that partnership with them. Okay, for education, we're getting things started back up. There have been 2 programs already delivered, the EAB What Can I Do webinar, which was in March. And then just in June, we had the tree care and shrub pruning basics at Maplewood Nature Center. And that was our first program in person after the pandemic, and people were pretty excited.
And Carol, if I can say, that one filled up, did it not?
Yes, we had a waiting list for that class. So we had a total of 40 spots open, and we had about 6 people on the waiting list. So we will be offering that again. And then I also composed an ash replacement tree care letter. Because as I started the inspections, I noticed a lot of things like people had the mulch too close to the base of their tree, or they didn't take the black tree guards off the trunks in this heat. It was just kind of a reminder for them to water and do some other care activities for their trees. Later on this year, we're going to continue having our buckthorn seminar out in one of the parks. And this year I was thinking about having it right here in City Hall. And one nice thing about that class is that they learn how to identify buckthorn, how to take care of it, and then after the teaching portion is over, they get to practice. So there's a little free removal that comes with the program. We're also going to redo the EAB, What Can I Do, in October. And then long ago we did a program called Rain Garden Rescue. And our gardeners are working hard to spiffy up our city rain gardens. And we're seeing some things that in the past we discussed with people in this program. It's usually done out in the neighborhood, and it's probably time for reintroducing that program. Okay, and for volunteers, right now we've got the monitoring volunteers that I mentioned before, the community garden volunteers, and we do also have a city tree care advisor from the U of M, and she has been caring for the trees at Wakefield Park. So that's super helpful. And as I said, Century College students are starting up again. We had a couple people help with litter pickup, and I'm making a list of tasks for up to 6 classes this fall. So if you've got any ideas of anything that needs attention, let me know. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about wildlife because I do receive a few calls about wildlife, mostly about white-tailed deer. Most people are not familiar with our Maplewood ordinance that states that there's no feeding or attractants like scents or salt licks for deer in the city. One of the reasons for that is that deer will move different invasive plants around by carrying the seeds from one place to another. And also when deer congregate, they can do a lot of property damage, and it's also something that spreads diseases through deer. So you may have heard of not COVID-19, but chronic wasting disease. And that's a disease that's spreading in Minnesota. Most people, and I honestly was not aware until recently, that the Minnesota DNR has a deer feeding ban, and that includes all of the metro area. And what that states is that if you have any wildlife food out, like bird feeders, that deer could possibly get into, they should be at least 5 feet off the ground. And the other thing that I did not know about is that Maplewood south of I-94 is contained within a chronic wasting disease surveillance area. And that's because there's a southern metro deer farm where that disease was found. And so they are checking deer in that area to see if the disease has left that farm. Oh, wrong way. Also for deer management, we do a lot of education for the public, including letters. I like to promote, if you've got too many deer hanging around your yard, to use some sort of hazing methods. And that can include things like making noise, using repellents. If you've got dogs, that might help. There are also several different brands of motion-activated sprinklers that if a deer comes by, it's one of those that goes ch-ch-ch-ch. That's kind of startling. I've used those myself, and they're pretty effective. And we could use some water now anyhow. We also have population control measures such as fall archery hunts and sharpshooting. So for the archery hunts, we contract Metro Bow Hunters Resource Base, and they do hunt at Prairie Preserve. They also hunt at Fish Creek, but it's only on the Ramsey County side, not on the city side. We also we partner with Maplewood, Ramsey County, and the city of St. Paul, and hire USDA sharpshooters. And these sharpshooters are trained. That's what they do. They are very good shots. They do not take a shot if they can't get a broadside shot that will drop the deer in place. So this is not something that will cause deer to go elsewhere wounded. There are 3 sites that are used for these hunts, and they all are within a range of one large herd in Maplewood. So this herd moves from place to place and covers a large area, including these 3 sites that are used. There are increasing complaints on wild turkeys, including damage to landscaping and health issues. So if you've got great big flocks of turkeys, then they leave a lot of waste behind. So we've checked into sending letters to a large portion of the main neighborhood and recommended hazing methods again. I've also checked into removal by USDA sharpshooters, and they said they could do that, but it is very costly. I was not able to get the county to partner with us on that effort. Canada geese, we've had a few complaints, same thing, large flocks of Canada geese hanging around yards, eating the grass, leaving things behind. And it's pretty much the same issue with turkeys, but when the geese have their goslings, they lose their flight feathers. Once the goslings have their flight feathers, usually the adults have grown back, and then they fly off and the problem is solved. Okay, any questions? Here is my contact info. I'd be happy to take any calls from the public.
And yes, any questions anyone has for Carol tonight as well. It was a lot of information you shared, Carol. Thank you.
Carol, I'm curious on the insects that you put on the ash trees. Where do we get those, or where do they come from?
They come from the U.S. or the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and I believe that they get them from a national facility that raises them. So there are biocontrols for a lot of different invasive species, and they're typically raised elsewhere. And then it's like USDA will order them. Communities can request some of them for certain problem plants. At least that's what I'm familiar with, is the plant side of things. And usually what you'll do is you get a drop-off from the Department of Agriculture. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if no other questions, we can move into the next item on the agenda.
Okay, so as we mentioned before, we'd like to explore the possibility of preservation of the ash tree at Wakefield Park. We're just starting the conversation, which began 3 years ago during the PRC bus tour. It's the only tree between the new building and the picnic shelter. Just recently, I think last week, I heard back from the forester, and he said it was a very good candidate for preservation. But to kind of circle back to the pollinator resolution that was passed in 2016, it says that we should limit the use of systemic insecticides in the time between when our policy or our EAB plan was written and when I took my tree certification this past winter. I believe there's probably more information out there that maybe should be explored. Neonicotinoids are probably insecticides you've heard about before that are harmful to pollinators and other wildlife. And I know that at least the imidacloprid has been mentioned in the EAB plan. I have not read anything about the dianeturofran. The non-nicotinoids that I learned about recently are more effective than the neonics, and they're also less harmful to the pollinators. So it might be that we should explore more about the effects of those chemicals. And city EAB plan says that we should encourage residents to use injection if they do treat and not do the soil drench. So the management plan that was written in 2011 for emerald ash borer was created before we even had confirmed EAB in the city. They prohibit the use of systemic pesticides, both the neonics and non-neonics, on city property. That plan also called for reviewing and revising the city code regarding EAB, and I'm just being a newbie here, I'm not sure that ever happened, so I haven't had time to take a look into that. And we are just starting discussions, staff and the Environmental Commission, about starting a tree policy in the city of Maplewood. So since the EAB plan was written, there have been a lot of updates that have come along. One of the references in the 2011 plan is this document, but this is actually the third version. So since 2011, there have been 2 updates to this document. So I think that perhaps we should take a look to see if anything has changed in there. Here are some methods that we can use to manage EAB. One is mechanical or tree removal, and we are doing that. We are removing ash trees on our boulevards and in the parks. We're starting with those that have been confirmed with EAB, and then others that do not look healthy. We have started the biocontrol release, as you saw in the last presentation. But we do not use any chemicals whatsoever. We don't use the non-neonics. And one of the new things I saw in the last document that was in the previous slide was that there are now non-systemic trunk sprays that you can use on ash trees that are effective. But I haven't explored that very deeply. And that's about it.
Thank you, Carol. And chair members of the commission, I had asked Carol to pull together just some brief information on EAB because she's been working closely with this. Just because we had talked, it's already been 3 years, about potentially when we did the Wakefield Park improvements to the possibility of saving that tree because it's offers so much shade and beauty for that particular area. There were no other trees around. And we talked about when the time was right, we'd want to circle back and explore that option. That's what the commission at that time had wanted to do. And so now, fast forward 3 years, it's kind of the time would be now. So I'm just wanted to bring it back to the commission so you can talk about if this is something that the commission is even interested in still pursuing. And if so, Carol just wanted to give this background information of where things stand currently, and then we could figure out next steps based on how the commission felt. So we just wanted to give a little background information, and then it would be to turn it over to you tonight. There's no vote on whether to do it or not, but it's kind of like a workshop, if you will, for this item, just to get a feel for what the commission feels about it. And then depending on what we hear from you, just circling back with staff and doing more of a deep dive and figuring out what maybe could be done or how it would be done. So with that, I will turn it back to Chair and the commission for discussion.
Discussion, please.
I think it's important we keep that tree. beautiful tree, and that park is very beautiful, and there's not very many trees left in that park.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen that tree and taken shade under the tree. But I do think it makes sense to look at some updated information. It seems like some of the resources from a few years ago might be outdated, so I think that's a smart move.
It seems like we have some conflicting priorities, the pollinators and the tree, and the kind of crossover on who's going to get what when. Hopefully, there is some advancement in treating emerald ash borer from what there was in 2011 that may allow us to actually do something. It seems like, though, that the city putting together a tree code plan, something that's going to maybe take precedence over any of what our ideas might be. It would be nice to have some input into that planning, if either through staff or somebody from the commission.
Do we have any idea what the cost of treating a tree like that was? I think I remember some from, a few years ago, but could you refresh my memory?
The recent costs I've seen online are $11 per inch diameter breast height. So for your typical large ash, it could be anywhere from $200 to $350.
Is that per year?
That's every 2 to 3 years.
Oh. So really, it's not a cost issue. It's more of a, do we think this is a good idea? And, I guess my feeling is, you don't want to, I don't think we should do it across a large area, but, in select places, I think it's appropriate. And that's what I said when we were putting that broad ban in place. I said, be careful, you put that in place and you're going to be, anyway.
And Chair, members of the commission, what Commissioner Brandon is talking about is when they did come forward to talk to the Parks Commission, for those of you that are newer, and then take it to council, there was the option to put that tool in your toolbox to reserve the right for the city to pick certain trees, select trees to treat for this very reason. At that time, they chose not to add that into the plan, and so now so it was like if there was, we'd have to come back and revisit. So we don't have a set plan going forward of the exact way to bring this forward, but I just thought circling back to the group, having the discussion if this is something that we feel that we still think is beneficial and to do, and then we would go back and regroup and we would be bringing this back to you again. And this won't be the first time we talk, unless the group decided that, based on the way things are, that you don't want to move forward with this. So that's kind of the feel for tonight.
Okay.
I have a question, and I was wondering, is EAB, that's the sort of thing that, it would eventually kill a tree, correct?
That's correct.
And does it spread to other trees as well?
Yes.
Okay. It's a beautiful tree, and it would be a shame to see a beautiful tree like that become diseased and eventually die off.
I wonder if there's a way of making that ash tree a symbol of all of the EAB education. We want to save this one. These are ways we can do it. And if we can't save this one, then all the other ones are going to go, or the other ones are going because, I don't know where it all goes around to, but make it kind of a yay for the tree.
And Carol, so is this the type of research that you would be looking into anyway, or is this just an extra effort that we'll be asking you to do?
Well, the Environmental Commission was going to revisit creating a tree policy, so it's something that we'd probably be looking at anyhow.
And some things to consider would be if preserving this tree would give a chance for, potentially if we planted other trees around the area, it would give other trees in that area a chance to grow up before, this tree disappeared, so there was something there. So there's a lot of different scenarios, and I think, Carol, I don't know if we want to speak to it tonight, but there's even some research that, and I'll let you speak to it, about treating a certain tree and how it might be beneficial. I don't.
Yeah, I've read one report that said that if you treat 1% of the trees in a park, it provides protection for the rest of the trees. Only 1% of the trees. How much protection, that I'm not sure of yet.
Are there any risks to keeping this tree? I know we kind of said that it wasn't really near other trees, but would there be any risks to trying to treat it?
Well, depending on the method used, and the chemical, there definitely could be risks to pollinators. If it's treated before the other ashes in the park die, that risk would be lessened.
Any other discussion? Thank you. Are we done with new business? Or you have anything else, Audra?
Sure. So, Chair, members of the Commission, I'm getting the feeling, if I'm listening to the conversations, that you would be interested in us exploring more of what this might look like if we did preserve this tree. Am I understanding correctly?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any unfinished business?
I do not.
Okay. Any visitor presentations? No. Commission presentations?
Just going to ask, we had the Eagle Scout come and talk to us. What's going on? Have we done anything with that? What's going on? I have been using there's one at Weaver now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
we-
funny, because we're going to be putting the one at Robin Hood, too.
So are we going to go move forward with that? We haven't
We
heard any
are.
more.
We're kind of on the time schedule of the Scout when they
Okay.
get their things together. But Sam actually just came in last week to have me sign his sponsorship fundraising slip. So he goes,
Okay,
"It's the last
good.
piece." So he's still at it.
Great. And then, are we doing any summer events this year now that COVID's, or are we done? I mean, so if we're not having, I'm really concerned that we're not doing sports and stuff for kids. And I hope so bad I hope so bad we get on the YMCA and get them on our thing right away so we can get in. I'm just worried that if we don't have something out there for these kids, we're going to have trouble. I mean, they need to do stuff, and even now, high schools are getting less and less sport. They need to do stuff, or they're going to get. I just think we need to work with the Y as soon as possible on this, because we need stuff out there, and I'm very concerned on that.
Sure, thank you. Chair, members of the Commission, and I will let you know that we have been working with the Y actually this whole past year, but it's depending on what they can offer them with their staff and that kind of thing. But I will tell you, as we've mentioned before, there was not a recreation budget there were no dollars put into the recreation budget for 2020, and there doesn't look like there will be for 2021. So as far as the events go, we're working with public safety and kind of partnering with them on some of their events and outreach, and we're going to see how things progress. But as of right now, there are not any Parks and Recreation Department, like wild events or that kind of thing I think you're referring to. No, there are not any.
Touch a truck and all that, nothing.
No, not currently at this time.
What can we do? We need to do something. We need to get, I want our city back doing stuff. I'm afraid this is going to hurt them.
Right, and like I said, one of the things is working with, actually her name is Officer Emily Burt McGregor. She's the community outreach police officer, and she is doing a lot of those outreach events that they do, and we're working with them currently because they have them planned, and we're doing, Neil Brenneman and I are working with them when we can, but we don't have special event staff, on. So right now it's essentially, it would be Neil and myself, and we're assisting.
You're swamped, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and without a
Budget
determined,
or-
right. So, but
How
it
did
doesn't mean they won't
How
be.
did the budget go away? How did that go away? I mean, where'd it go?
Yeah.
I mean, how
Talk
did
to
we
the
all?
city
I was
council.
going to say, all of a sudden we just don't have money for our kids. It's like
That was a decision that was made in during 2020. It was a tough decision made for with budgetary concerns and COVID, with the fact that things were shut down, and it was a decision that was made going forward. And like I said, it doesn't mean we won't.
From this commission.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should have had some input. I mean, we're the Parks and Rec. We're the ones that
These kids need to.
I will say we're not getting rid of community outreach events. We just don't have any right now. But again, we're figuring out that transition and how to get back to what that might look like. And that's kind of, it's a work in progress right now. So.
We need to get our kids involved or we're going to have, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I see
it's
why
not
we
gonna
did
be-
it during COVID, but,
We need,
I mean,
we got,
does that mean we're
especially-
just done forever on recreation? Is that,
I mean, we.
and that's just kind of out of nowhere to me, sorry, I mean, maybe I'm not
No,
paying
and
attention,
I
but.
thought, and maybe I apologize, because we can revisit all those, the task force outcomes that I mean, all of that was addressed when we did give the update from when the task force is finished, but since we have some new commission members and Commissioner Vicky was actually on one of those task forces, so if you'd like, for the next meeting, we can come back and revisit the task force, outcomes of what came out of that and revisit it. Because we had done that right after they completed, but maybe it would be good to just review all of those, and I'm happy to do that if the group is interested.
Yeah, and I was on the task force, but I'm even curious to see what the progress has been since winter.
Sure. Yep, and I will say, like what I mentioned back in, again, it's not that we are not doing recreation programming as a city, like the staff is not, we are not doing, that was the directive, we're not doing it, but we were trying to figure out ways to work with other groups and other associations and what they're offering and promote what they have so people know what the opportunities are and what the YMCA is offering. But that is the decision that was made, and so it's not like we haven't created programs because we haven't got to it. We're not going to be creating in-house programs. We don't have a recreation budget. We're not doing recreation programming in-house, as Craig put it. But we're working with making sure that there are other opportunities that are all around us that are available to Maplewood residents, and that was the goal of the task force, is what can we do and who could we partner with, or we have a page on our website with all the different resources of who's offering what and how to get there and their registration pages, and we update that whenever we get new information. Like I said, NEU, if they offer a program, before they never offered recreation, it was always just the traveling club soccer. They're now doing it. We're promoting their programs and doing the advertising for that. So those are the ways we're trying to facilitate recreation programs for Maplewood residents that we're not offering, or if Community Ed is offering something, or after school, or even other companies. So if you're aware of any opportunities that we don't maybe have listed on our website or that we could promote, let me know. I'd be happy to, because our goal is just to make sure that people know what's out there and what they can partake in. So
When does the next budget discussion come up? Was it 2021 it's cut, and then 21, 22? Is it still cut, or when do we have a chance to say, hey, we're still here?
We're currently, the city is working on the 2021 budget currently, both the CIP and the budget doesn't get finalized for 2022, I said that wrong. For 2022, it doesn't get finalized until, and Nikki, you can chime in if I'm wrong, but December is when the budget, there's budget talks all along. We started working on the budget in end of April, but it'll be finalized in December, so, it's ongoing.
And is there any chance that funds will be replaced to Parks and Rec in the new budget? Or does it not look very well?
Currently, right now, that is not in the budget plans.
Okay.
I'm just shocked that we didn't know about this. I
But-
don't know, I mean.
We did talk about it, but I think a lot of, like I said, I'm happy to, at the next meeting, if you want to get into it more again, but the decision was made not to have a recreation budget. That was done in 2020, and then
But I
for
thought part of-
2021.
Part of the task force, I think, both for the Nature Center and for Park and Rec, had some recommendations on seeking funding in the next budget go-round.
That was one of the things that the task force was hoping to see, if potentially in the future they would bring back recreation funds. Yep.
Or to even look at,
And looking
Some
more into
special
getting,
bonding or-
and our thing was to get more people involved, do things with the community. It's like, oh, we're just gonna have problems.
maybe, Audra, I know there were short-term, medium, and long-term goals. We should be probably into the range of the mediums by now, if we can get an update
Sure. We've actually been completing stuff all across the board, some short, medium, and long.
Okay.
And again, they're there, but we can just focus on a task force update. For tonight's meeting, it was because of the change in the department and the nature center. I focused on that being our update for the task forces for this meeting. But yep, next meeting, absolutely.
Let's take a look
And when
at
can
that.
we get the Y in? I've been asking for that for a long time.
Sure. Yeah, they've had transitions with their directors, so once they're at a point where it's a good time to bring them in, they can give you an update. They absolutely will be coming in.
Yeah, and Audra, kudos to you and Neil. I have been getting a lot of notifications for the soccer club and things like that, and maybe just because I have little kids that I'm like more attuned to that, but I've been seeing a lot of that as well. So good job on the marketing for that.
Thank you. And to let you know, the YMCA is offering their adult volleyball leagues. That was a really popular program that we did, and some teams that we sent out the memo, we wouldn't be doing that anymore, and now's the time of year where they usually register, so I've been getting a lot of emails from teams like, are you, like, no, but I already have them directed to Felipe, so I copy Felipe, who is the volleyball coordinator at the Y, and then he reaches out to them and lets them know about the volleyball leagues at the Y that they're offering. So those are the ways that we're working together to just.
What about like grants and stuff for these kids that can't afford it now? I know we always helped out with kids. Now, if they're going to these other programs, how are they?
Well, one thing is we still do have money left in the youth scholarship fund. Those dollars, so as long as if they're signing up for a program at the Y and they're a resident of Maplewood, because the stipulation for those funds is you have to be a Maplewood resident, it always has been, then we can offer the scholarship funds for them. So and the Y has some of their own programs. I think sometimes they even offer discounted or free swimming lessons in certain cases, but I just actually spoke with a lady that was looking at a program that they were offering, and I said, well, if they don't have that particular scholarship, I told her, call me back, because we have used scholarship funds for Maplewood residents, and how that always worked was we pay for 2/3 of the cost of the program, and then they pay 1/3.
Yeah.
And it's good for each child per season, one activity per season, so.
I just want to make sure they,
Yep.
and they're aware, or
Yep.
make sure they know that, because there's so many families that don't have anything, I'm
Sure.
afraid.
Yep.
Okay,
Craig.
Craig?
Just a comment that the grounds, or the people that take care of the parks, I can't come up with the word right
park
now.
maintenance,
but
yep.
Park maintenance did a really nice job. They weeded the Sunset Ridge tot lot. Looks really nice. It
It needed some help, yeah.
was getting pretty bad, and the bridge towards Little Canada from that.
Off of Walter Street there?
Yes,
The
off
one
of
we have
Walter
in
Street.
partnership with Little Canada?
Yep, yeah, they did a really nice job of fixing that. And I mean, the brush was encroaching so badly on there that it was completely covered from both sides. And I mean, now it's like 12 foot wide, so it's very, it looks really nice.
Oh, good. Yeah, we're actually working with Little Canada. We had a meeting out on site to problem solve, because that was a 230 feet of boardwalk, but it's essential, and that trail, as you know, is used so much. And it shouldn't be nearing the end of its life quite yet, but there were some issues with it, so we're working with Little Canada Park Maintenance and our park maintenance, and they went out and replaced quite a few boards, and just trying to get it, up to speed, so that, and then talking about where to put it in the CIP going forward, because eventually it was put in I think 2008, I want to say, and so soon it'll be another item between the two cities, and Little Canada oversees it, but we were part of helping fund it, and kind of formed a joint powers to take care of that. So I'm glad you appreciate it. Yet we've spent some time on that the last few weeks.
Staff presentations, it says no report, but I think you have something.
Yep, that's just, so there's no official, but I'm just giving you updates, yep. Yeah, and my first update was just on the fireworks. That was our first back in-person event. It was nice to have the fireworks, and even though it was a really windy day and very hot, the fireworks ended up going off without a hitch, and believe it or not, the wind was the biggest scare. Usually it's a thunderstorm or lightning, but if it's past a certain amount of wind, they can't shoot the fireworks off. So we were waiting up until probably a half hour before the fireworks were shot off to be really comfortable. So we were happy about that. And then Councilmember Villavicencio wanted to say something about the parks too, so. I'm
Thanks,
gonna turn
Audra.
it over to her.
I just wanted to thank Audra and the staff for everything they did on the 4th of July because they did a tremendous job and it overall went really well from what I was able to see. I just also want to say that, I hear you guys loud and clear about what we were just discussing before, and just to add to the discussion, we do have a fishing. The public safety is doing a fishing trip with kids and families tomorrow, I believe. So, like Audra said, the public safety department is still doing things. We're still doing our national night out. With the nature center being reopened, I feel that we are moving towards that direction. And like I said, I hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, and then Carol already touched on the Nature Center improvements. I wanted to let you know that we are finished with those. They did finish. They just finished up the stairs and that little bit of the boardwalk to lift it up, and the stairs look really nice. And I went out there while they were working on them, and it was a 90-degree day, humid, and they were in all of the nature because it's all around the stairs, and they were working hard. So I think they did a great job. There's some not so great news to share. We did have, I don't know if some of you know, but we did have another playground fire on Saturday. 2 juveniles decided to light the tunnel, the playground equipment at Maplewood Crest on fire. But the good news is there was a passerby that came along it pretty quickly and actually used a fire extinguisher, tried to put it out, and then a neighbor came with water. So the damage was contained to just the big tube slide. So we were very lucky this time. It wasn't like Yosemite where it was a hole. But we had to take the big slide down, and we're already working with getting it replaced. But right now, ordering parts is still so delayed because of, I don't know if it's COVID or what, but it's just the supply and demand. The chain of delivery is really slow on a lot of things. So it'll probably be late October before we get the replacement slide, but we will. So the good news is the fire was contained, but the sad news is we had another playground fire. So I really appreciate the neighbors and the quick thinkers of the passerby that put the fire out. So wanted to share that with you in case you hear. And then we have a job opening for a park maintenance worker. One of our employees was able to find a park maintenance job 7 minutes from his home, and not the long commute. So we're sad to lose Jason, but it did open up an opportunity for a park maintenance worker, and the job is available on our website, and it is open until the end of the month. So if you know of anyone that might be interested, it is a full-time position with the Parks Department. And some other good news is the tennis courts. We are flying on those improvements at Vista Hills. So they've already got all the asphalt work done. They're just going to be doing the overlay painting on both the basketball courts and the tennis courts with the new basketball goals, and they're going to be the best ones we have in our system. So I think by the second week of August, that's willing, for sure in August, but by the second week we should have the brand new tennis courts and basketball courts at Vista Hills. So excited about that. And then Carol had mentioned that we went out for quotes for those improvements at the Prior, and we received 3, correct? 3. So we'll be 3 so far. We'll be looking at those and then taking that to council and pending approval, we'll be going out to get those Prior improvements done. So things are moving. Our CIP projects are starting to happen again. So I think that's really good news for the Parks Department. So any questions on my updates at all?
You have your hands full and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Dorothy.
You've become like 5 people or something. Anything else, or I'll call for adjournment?
Move to adjourn?
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Looks like